Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our work session for tonight, Monday, August 12th. Thank you for joining us here in the room and also for those that are online. We'll start with the roll call.
Mayor Garitano,
Here.
Councilmember Bruce,
Here.
Councilmember Edens, Councilmember Ottenberg,
Here.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Here.
Councilmember Marshall,
Present.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Here.
Councilmember Hopper, Councilmember Galani, Councilmember Preston,
Here.
Councilmember Mabry,
Here.
Councilmember Nyan,
Here.
Councilmember Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Here.
Councilmember Rambo, Councilmember Kranz, Councilmember Albers.
Thank you. Welcome again to everyone to our meeting tonight. We'll proceed with the agenda here. So first, the section here for information. This is an opportunity if we have any questions from the council that they would like to ask pertaining to any of the four information items. And as a reminder, there are attached reports to the agenda with updates regarding these items. So let me pause and see if we have anyone that has a question. I do see Councilmember McCutcheon with the raised hand online, so we'll start with Councilmember McCutcheon.
Thank you. I have questions, I think, about 3 different items. I saw the information on the Green Pine Little Library location. It seems to be the same as it was during last council meeting. I had suggested that we put it at the back of the park so that the children are still safe when somebody's coming in and out of the park. So that little reading library will be closer back to the pavilion and the benches and away from the front gate. Mr. Vunich, am I incorrect?
You are not. The conversation that was held last month regarding the Little Free Library was potentially moving it outside the gates, outside the fenced area beyond the gates. And there wasn't a consensus on that at the committee meeting this July. So yes, I think your suggestion of having it now inside the fenced area, but more to the south end, away from the gates is excellent, and that's our plan.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question, there was information in the work session agenda about the Route 100 left turn and then the J turn. So is there been any change in the location of the J turns and the no left turns? Because I think it mentions the same street in both one of those documents.
Councilmember McCutcheon, I believe you're referring to an item that's under the for action section of the agenda.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
if it's okay. Yeah, we'll address that question that you have when we get to that.
I'm sorry, I don't have a copy of the agenda. I'm sorry. And then I'm guessing in 38 is part of the for action as well.
That is correct.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, let me ask the rest of council here if we have any other questions regarding for information. So Councilmember Farmer.
Yeah, I was looking at the marketing stuff for Celebrate Wildwood, and I would just suggest that we probably should incorporate some digital stuff. I mean, postcards and whatever is great, but it's expensive, and we've got a new person that can probably spearhead some digital marketing to try to increase some foot traffic.
Mr. Mayor, with your permission.
Yes, please. Sure.
Councilmember Farmer, excellent suggestion. But Mr. Newberry, along with several others, met this past Thursday, and Ms. Tart, our new communications manager, along with Debbie Ward of Silver Tablet Marketing, are going to be doing that. We're going to basically invest a little bit more in Instagram and Facebook and do some videos and things along those lines. So thank you.
Awesome.
Hey, does anyone else have any questions pertaining to the for information items? All right, then we will move on to The next part of the agenda, which is for action. So the first item on the agenda is the Latitude North 38. So I ask Director Vunich to come up, please. Thank you.
Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, you may recall from the July meeting, there was a decision made to postpone this particular item to allow the applicants, in this case, Benton Homes and TB Realty, to have more time to review the conditions that have been developed at the direction of City Council via the Department of Planning, the Department of Public Works, and our city administrator. Those conditions have been available to the development entity since that meeting, and there were responses provided. Those responses are identified in the packet of information that's before you tonight. This past Friday, we were finally able to meet with the development entity, that being our city attorney, our city administrator, and others from the Department of Planning, and had an opportunity to go through each of those potential changes, the concerns that have been identified by the public as well as our city council members. And so tonight, there is a prepared response to each of their items for your all's consideration. I would note that just before the meeting began, the attorney representing the two petitioners, as well as one of the petitioners, have been working on a revised plan based upon the conversations that were held on Friday. And I believe they would like to request another postponement till September.
All right, thank you, Director Vunich. So how does the department feel regarding that request for postponement?
Well, certainly the past history of this city council has been, if there's an opportunity to work toward a solution that's good for all, that being the mayor, the city council, the residents and property owners in the area, then that postponement's probably worth the extra 4 weeks. However, if you all feel that there's just issues that can't be overcome in this particular instance, and you'd like to go through the discussion tonight, the department is prepared, as well as I think the others that have participated up to this point.
Thank you. Let me open up for council, see if there's any other motion or any discussion on the matter. Councilmember Farmer.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion to postpone it so you guys can keep working on it. My only question would be, I mean, are there things, Joe, that you guys feel like we're asking that we're just going to be at an impasse on, or are there conversations on some of those issues that are still happening?
Well, I don't necessarily want to steal the petitioner's thunder, but as you know, from day one, they've continued to argue that density is a key component for the success of this development, and that 57 units was the minimum they could accept. Just before the meeting, as I mentioned, I was shown a design that now is at 55 units. Now, again, that may still be more than what City Council believes is appropriate or the surrounding community, but they have made a step toward addressing one of their primary issues, which has been density. From the department's perspective, it'd certainly be informative to know how they got to that density, and if there is other steps that can be made to maybe get another unit or two. I don't know, but it's often difficult to, bake a loaf of bread while you're standing at the podium, so to speak.
Well, I mean, I'd be happy to make the motion to postpone, and hopefully you guys can keep working on it because, we got some things to work on.
Right, so Council Farmer, are you making the motion? Do you have a second on the motion? Councilmember Dodwell, is that a second? Okay. So we do have a motion on the floor, and we continue discussion regarding the motion to postponement. So Councilmember Kranz.
My main concern here is the number of residents that have shown up here. And I'm not going to ignore their concerns. I was out there the other day and I noticed the slope of the piece of property slopes from the north down south. So I'm anticipating a lot of water runoff, erosion, and so I think density is an issue here. And so I also learned the other day that there's a water pressure problem over at Main Street Crossing. So, my position here is I don't see these people compromising. I read somewhere they don't want to construct the Main Street. They were adamant about 57 homes a month ago. So what I would like to recommend is that we do away with the PRD and stay with 4,000 square foot lots minimum, and then have them come back here with a plan. And if we don't like it, we can just deny it. But this thing is very hot here in Wildwood, and there's a lot of people upset. So we got to do our very, very best to keep this density down before I support it.
Well, certainly, I think that sentiment has been echoed by other city council members relative to density. And certainly, as I said, I don't take it as a victory for the city. I take it as a cooperative step that there is now 55 units versus 57. I don't want to necessarily speak for the petitioners, but they have talked about just moving forward with the underlying zoning that now is in place, the R6A residence district, without the benefit of the overlay district. So I know they're considering that as well. I caution city council, without the overlay districts, some of the benefits that I think the city derives from that will be lost. And those benefits relate to basically designing the site, designing the development to the site versus putting the development on the site, so to speak. And so we used the overlay district in the enclaves of Cherry Hills, a major project when you were first on city council. And I think it turned out wonderfully. We were able to preserve.
Joe, because you had a large piece of property.
Right.
And when you have a small tract of land, it doesn't work very well. You give them more density on a piece of property that shouldn't have it, really. But anyway, continue on, and I know you will do a good job.
Well, I appreciate that. Sometimes I wonder, but I think the benefit of your comments is the parties are in the room. They've heard what you said, so we can take that into the discussions over the next few weeks.
Okay, I'm going to assume that, again, feedback for the postponement. Again, motion on the floor for postponement at this time. Any other comments related to that?
Thank you.
Yes,
Councilmember McCutcheon, you have your hand up. Is that regarding the motion for postponement that's on the floor right now?
yes. I would like some clarification before the postponement is off the table. And one of them is the density question. So Joe, correct me, because I'm gonna need somebody to help me remember this, but when we were on Town Center Update Committee, we established a new zoning. Do you remember what the name of that was?
We created a new category called the neighborhood edge transition. Thank you, sir. And we basically applied that along the southern boundary of Town Center, generally those lots south of Manchester Road. And then we kind of formed a logical boundary on the westernmost end, that being Pond Road, relative to that particular portion of Town Center. So yes, we did, but it was not applicable here in the core of our Town Center, which again, this was formerly Downtown District, now is Neighborhood General District. And that was a change that volunteer group made as well.
Well, thank you for clarifying, because I thought this area on Crestview Drive, since it had originally been 3 acres, that the update committee said that from this point forward, it would be 1 home per acre. So I guess based on what you said, that's not going to be the case.
Now, again, just as a point of reference, The area basically from Taylor Road to Etherton Road along what would be future Main Street was always intended to be downtown district. It was that group in 2018 that, for the most part, said bringing downtown district or potential for commercial up to Main Street Crossing in Canterbury probably wasn't a workable outcome. And so from that perspective, they pushed the downtown district further back toward the east or toward City Hall.
Okay, I'll hold my other comments until we've decided to move forward with more discussion. Thank you.
Don't see any other hands up regarding discussion on the motion on the floor, so seeing there are none, I'll see if we have a voice vote. We'll take a voice vote at this time. So does anyone need the motion repeated? Okay, and to clarify, this is a postponement, but did we get postponement till when that would be?
I mean, if next month seems appropriate, that's fine. I mean, I will say, as Councilmember Krantz mentioned, I mean, I think we have some work to do. So, I mean, if we want to keep rolling this every month, that's fine, or whatever. Next month works for me.
Yeah, I think just for the proper motion, we'll take that as a motion of postponement to the next council meeting or work session. And the second is fine with that? Okay, so we got that clarity. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone that opposes or abstains? All right, seeing none, and the motion to postpone passes. All right, well, then we will proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is the Portner Park planning. Director Vunich?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, you may recall through the first 7 months of the year, there's been a great deal of discussion about forming a task force of citizens to help with the creation of a master plan for Portner Park. That development of the task force has kind of been uneven. Obviously, we're in now August, and we were really struggling to find volunteers to support that particular task force. There were many reasons, I think, that caused that. I think one of the reasons is just the simple fact when the property was donated to the city, there were a number of restrictions that were placed upon it by Ms. Yost, the owner of the property before her passing. Those restrictions do limit what can happen on the property and certainly isn't necessarily going to restrict what the city of Wildwood would like to do. I think they are consistent with our goals almost in all instances, but again, may not just be something that would necessarily dictate the process we've used like for community park and other public facilities. The Planning and Parks Committee decided that maybe in this particular instance, given the unique characteristics of the property, the deed restrictions, that the committee itself might be that entity that works with the consultant, the departments of planning, public works, and administration in coming up with the concept. And then with that concept in hand, then begin public engagement with the general, the property owners and the general public, both in the vicinity of the property and throughout Wildwood. So tonight, the committee is recommending that we forego the task force and use more of an ad hoc group of city council members that are part of the Planning and Parks Committee, city personnel from the range of departments, and a consultant that is to be a point of discussion tonight on our regular session agenda as a resolution. The feeling is that with that group, we can come up with a couple of options, take it out to our public through different methods, again, with our new communications manager, and receive the feedback that we want and not necessarily have to go through a process that in the end, any might feel there's just so limited use here that it really wasn't as fruitful as it could have been. The committee is presenting this particular item to you tonight for consideration. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Is there anyone from the committee? I'd ask Councilmember Galani, but he's not able to join us tonight. Anyone from the committee that wants to add to anything that was provided by Director Vunich? Councilmember Dodwell?
That was the same discussion we had. It was getting cumbersome to try to find additional people. And we thought if we narrowed in the group of people, we could come to a conclusion for the residents to review along with the council more quickly. So I did have one question, Mayor, if I might. Joe, when are you going to try to pull this group together, and when will you report back with that group? Or do you have any kind of target date on that?
Oh, pardon me, ma'am. I cut you off there a little early. Councilmember Dodwell, the proposed draft agenda for the Planning and Parks Committee next week actually has this on there already. So I was thinking that the department would lay out the next steps for this group if successful tonight with the request. And then we could probably get started right after Labor Day.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yeah, just want to comment real quickly. This really streamlines the process, and given the bequest constraints, there's no downside to this whatsoever, because the city's goals are congruent with the terms of the bequest, and so we can just do the best job we can and put it out for public comment. I think it'll work well. So that's just I'm a member of the committee, and that's, you asked for a comment. So
Sure. And would you like to make a motion, or is there anyone? Okay, so go ahead and state your motion. Is there a second on that motion?
Is that for
Councilmember?
option one? Is that for option one in the?
I believe that's your intent, right? Okay. So you want to make that clear in the motion there? You're good with that? Okay, second by Councilmember Jaxi. So any other discussion on the motion there to move forward with this? And seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Anyone oppose or abstain? All right, that motion passes. Moving on, then we'll go to the next item on the agenda, which is a review of the Route 100 J-turn project. Director Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members, I'll try to keep this fairly brief. Tonight before you, we have our Route 100 J-turn project. This is not relative to the 100 left turn lane project. That's a separate improvement project that we're working on. This is the J-turn improvement project. We've been working on this project for the better part of a year now, and our consultant GBA initially completed a conceptual study of the implementation of J-turns or potential improvements at Route T as well as Pond Road on Route 100. That was done last year, and ultimately they also evaluated the use of roundabouts at both those intersections and ultimately recommended the implementation of the J-turns at Route T as well as at Pond Road. J-turns are a proven safety improvement. MoDOT has about 43 J-turns constructed throughout the state of Missouri. Other states have also done this as well throughout the U.S. So research has been done on completed J-turn projects in Missouri and throughout the country, and the results have shown that they do reduce all crashes at intersections significantly, as well as, most importantly, the serious injury and fatal crashes. So it's a well-known and proven countermeasure to improve the safety at intersections, at great intersections. So as a result of the conceptual study, we did hold a public meeting, actually 2 public meetings in May of this year to get public feedback on the improvement project that's proposed. We sent out invites to about 1,400 homes, sites that are located near the intersections of Route T and Route at Pond Road. Had about 100 people show up to those meetings in May. About 52 left public comment for us at those meetings. So I think the bottom line, unfortunately, that we found is that most people are not very excited about the implementation of J-turns. And the more we talk to MoDOT, the more we talk to folks that have been involved in this, that is not uncommon. It's a project that is new to St. Louis, to this area. So for that reason, people tend to be cautious, understandably. But I think the main concern that folks have nominally is what we heard is that the adverse travel that's created with a J-turn is not something that people enjoy. So with the J-turn project, the side road, essentially the local traffic, is required of the through and left turns from the side road are required to make a right turn, then travel downstream to a U-turn location and then double back. So that creates adverse travel, additional travel in terms of side road motorists. So that was very loud and clear at the public meetings that we held, that people don't like them from that standpoint. What I would like to press upon you is that we have done a lot of work on this project. And as I mentioned, they are both improvements at Route T and Pond are both significant in terms of their potential impact for safety reduction. The consultant calculated a benefit cost ratio of 5.44 for the project for the improvement at Route T and 3.49 for the improvement at Pond Road. So well above 1.0. So we do believe these will work and will be a safety improvement in the future, although we do recognize that folks are not very excited about the prospect of implementation. I do want to impress on you that we did our best to listen to the feedback that we've received to date. As I stated, we had about 100 folks show up at the meeting. We've also had contact, and I think you're aware of it, of Arnie Sprunger and some folks that live on Pond Road, primarily north of Route 100. We've had a couple meetings with those folks and numerous other conversations relative to the potential improvements. So we feel like we've done our best to address the comments that we received in a fair manner. So I wanted to provide you a little feedback in terms of what we have done in that regard. And first, I do want to mention the plan that was presented to the public meeting included Wild Horse Creek Road in the improvements. We have since taken Wild Horse Creek essentially out of the project. That was a comment that we received. Again, that was never part of the original project scope. It was never part of our application. We never saw a strong crash history to require us to address Wild Horse Creek Road. So when we heard folks not very excited about it, we said, let's take it out. And so we did, because there just isn't a strong history of serious and fatal crashes at that location. So that is one change that we did make in response to feedback and comment at the public hearing, the public meeting. Secondly, we did look very seriously at an alternative that would impact Pond Road relative to the issue of adverse travel. And we had our consultant GBA create an alternative that essentially flipped the Pond Road intersection and essentially allowed the side road left turns to make their movements, but required the main line lefts to utilize only the J turns. So this would eliminate the adverse travel for the side road for the Pond Road folks. We did provide a concept that was drawn up by our consultant and provided that for comment at the public meeting. We evaluated that for cost, and unfortunately found that it increased the project cost by about 25%, or about $750,000. We also felt, after reviewing that alternative, that it just didn't provide an increase in safety at the Pond Road intersection. It would require traffic to merge into a high-speed lane, the inside lane on Route 100, and that is not desirable from a safety standpoint. So we just didn't feel like we could support the alternative, and that's why it is not currently included in the preliminary plans that have been presented to you tonight. I'd like to make a few other quick comments, if you don't mind, relative to Pond Road. We did, and the preliminary plans that were submitted as part of my memorandum to you tonight, which is essentially what we're wanting to move forward with, did move the J turns closer to Pond Road. So we have reduced to a degree the adverse travel that will be incurred by motorists on Pond Road. The J turn to the west of Pond Road was relocated from 2,000 feet to 1,600 feet. So that's about a 20% reduction in the spacing. So that will help. Obviously, it doesn't eliminate that concern, but it certainly helps. The J turn to the east, in a similar fashion, we were able to move it another 250 feet closer to Pond Road. So that J turn will also now result in less adverse travel for local motorists. So we are trying to do what we can do to address some of those concerns and feedback. Now, more recently, and this issue has been in front of the Administration and Public Works Committee, I think 3 times over the last 7-8 months, More recently, we've looked at the possibility of leaving the crossover at Pond Road in place while constructing the J-turns on either side of the intersection. We did talk to MoDOT about the possibility of implementing that change, and that was not something that MoDOT was very excited about moving forward with. Their thought was that we won't see the safety reduction that we're aiming to achieve with the project. And again, that was not part of our original scope of work or proposal with our funding application. So that is not something that's supported by MoDOT, and I don't think it would see a benefit in safety that we're looking for with the improvements. So finally, tonight we are planning to move forward with the preliminary plan submittal that was presented to you as part of my memorandum. And I think at this point, the department will close the comments that I have. We are looking to move forward with the preliminary plans as proposed tonight with the changes that I have mentioned. If the city council would like to see any changes in the project beyond what is being proposed, we would ask for a motion be presented and approved in that manner. And with that, I think I will wrap up my comments and I'll be open for any questions from the city council.
Thank you, Director Brown. I'll ask the Chair of Admin Public Works, Councilmember Farmer, if there's anything else that you want to add or summarize the conversation that took place with the committee.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is kind of one of those things where, you know, we do have there is a safety issue. We have spent a lot of time on it. I mean, there are people that aren't enthused about it. I'm particularly not that enthused about it. I'm not sure it's going to work in a super great fashion, but at the same time, I think, you know, if we can prevent somebody from getting broadsided on that road, that's probably an important thing. And those are dangerous turns. So I do feel for the residents. You know, I think we've done a good job of trying to incorporate some of the feedback we've gotten from them and make as many adjustments as we can. So, I mean, I think what Rick's saying is right. I mean, we've done what we can of maybe not the world's greatest situation to try to make it better. I mean, the fact of the matter is it's not our road, so MoDOT can come in and do what they would like. So I guess they like J-turns.
All right, I'm going to open it up to see if we have any discussion from the council before we take any action here. So Councilmember Dodwell, I see your hand up.
Just real quickly, from the committee's perspective, don't we have J-turns up and down 109 in kind of the town center? Is that the same kind of process? It's only not going at speeds quite the same as on 100, correct? Where people go down, they veer off to the left so that they can
kind of. I mean, I guess the roundabouts sort of are similar. I mean, from what I understand and what we've talked about, you know, this is primarily used in like most specifically very rural areas. And so, you know, once again, we're kind of caught in this in between of, technically speaking, it is a rural area, but not exactly. So, I mean, it is inconvenient. I think, Rick, how it was a half a mile. How far is it now? Did we move it back? The turnarounds?
So relative to Pond Road, we did move them at Pond Road. The western J-turn moved from 2,000 feet to 1,600 feet.
Has anybody, I'm sorry, I might continue. Has anybody seen what's in Franklin County and what's in St. Charles County? Because they have J-turns in both of those counties. I've traveled them, I've turned in them. And they take a little bit of getting used to, but it's actually is a lot safer because you don't feel like you have to play Russian roulette with the cars coming in your direction. So
yeah, I think without question, the committee believes that, you know, the J-turns are significantly safer than what is currently there. The other thing to look at is, you know, we don't get an enormous amount of opportunities from MoDOT to do these kinds of projects and fix roads that are in really desperate need of repair. So it may not be the wisest decision to not accept that assistance when it's offered, because I doubt very much that it will come back.
see if there's any other discussion. Councilmember, was that was Councilmember Preston?
I think so mainly, this impacts Ward 1 probably maybe the most, and in discussion with some of the residents in that area, Northern Pond specifically, there's obviously the concern there of the remaining left-hand turn from the eastbound 100, just with at least the prospect of that increasing traffic used as kind of either a shortcut or just thoroughfare. Is it a viable option at all at this point in the game to think that, we get rid of that left-hand turn there and just proceed with the rest of this as is?
Councilmember, that is something that we did discuss with MoDOT, and I would say that the response that we received indicated they would not be opposed to that as being a possible modification to the project. The concern over that movement of traffic is it has the potential to increase cut-through traffic. I don't share that is a fair assessment, quite frankly. I understand that the residents are concerned, and they say there are cut-through vehicles utilizing Pond Road. We have not studied that. We don't know if that's an issue, or if it is, how much of that is occurring at this point. And I frankly don't feel like I can stand up here and tell you that by eliminating the eastbound left turn, it will reduce any cut-through traffic if it is indeed occurring.
Is there, just the fact that, is there any safety concern that we're keeping this here at the pond, or is there a specific reason for that, whereas not at other places?
I'm not sure I'm following your question.
Oh, I don't think there's a remaining left-hand turn, is there, from going east at Highway T? Is that gonna remain?
Correct. The other intersection, and what is typically done is you will allow the mainline left turns. I believe we are providing that at Route T as well. So
You're right, there is. Okay.
yeah, the proposal would be consideration to eliminate the eastbound left turn at Pond Road.
That would be, that's the consideration. And a number of folks from that area have expressed a similar sentiment. And I guess their point was like, it's not going to make it less safe by doing so. So that's something they would like us to consider.
Councilmember Avery.
I'm just dovetailing or dovetailing off past comments. I had seen the emails that came through today, and I was interested in what, if any, validation or weight we could support the comment that there was an attraction to cut through traffic. I had myself tried to think what amount of attraction could be increased by the plan that we're contending. What had there been traffic studies? Had there been accidents of foreign cars that we could track that aspect of concern? You said yourself, I'm cutting you off, but you said yourself that had been validated by your thinking about it, and you hadn't really come up with a thought that it would be attractive any more than it already is. I'd like to be able to think that we are recognizing and acknowledging what ends up as, any legitimate concerns of the residents, if they can be borne out by observation.
Well, Councilmember, I guess what I would tell you is that the traffic study that was completed in no way forecast an increase of traffic on Pond Road relative to cut through vehicles. And I believe that's accurate. I don't feel there's any reason to believe this project would increase directly the amount of cars that might be cutting through. Again, we haven't studied that issue at this point in time to determine if that's occurring and to what magnitude, if it is.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Farmer.
Yeah. So I think my interpretation of the conversations with the residents was a little bit different than what I was getting out of the emails. I think really what they were saying was, if we're looking at these J turns to alleviate traffic issues and safety, then, and I think also rightly so, the cut through traffic that is coming off of 100 and kind of ripping down Pond Road, whether it's 100 cars or 10 cars, whatever, it is also an unsafe situation. And so if we can correct both of those issues in sort of one fell swoop, they would be, I think, certainly more accepting of the inconvenience of the J turns, if it's also helping them feel slightly safer to not have people coming down the road off of a 70-mile-an-hour highway. So based on the conversation we had in the committee, I kind of think that was a sort of a no-brainer decision for us.
Councilmember Marshall.
Yeah, I thought, and I apologize because I thought we were going to discuss this at the last admin meeting. We were going back to look and say, okay, if we cut off all left-hand turns, then, and the J turn, I think everybody agrees the J turn by far is the safest way to do it. So if we were to put the J turns in at the full length that they were, and they were cutting to turning left going east on 100, and they were going to cut left to go up Pond Road, they just now would have to take the J turn and turn around and come back and go up Pond Road. So, and if they were just cutting through there to avoid the roundabout, then, you know, that would just eliminate it. So I kind of thought that was a great solution, is let's just cut off all left turns and let them use the J turns and just prove that they are that much safer in order to do that. That's what I thought when we had talked last time, that we were going to check. And I think you'd said that the state was not opposed to it. But to me, it would just increase the safety, albeit it would be inconvenience for those. And you've shown the numbers not as great as it might be, but the number of people that come and just turn left, because they are coming at a much faster speed to cut left there, or they went into the J turn. Be a safe way to get turned around to go up Pond Road if they needed to. Thank you.
So hearing a couple of comments regarding that left turn, I just want to throw out there if you want to make that motion now or wait for further discussion. Yep. Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Jackson.
Well, I just wanted to add, and maybe this is anecdotally, I recognize, Rick, that you don't have a study showing that there's traffic cutting through on Pond, but travel the road every day. I've watched several cars pull out onto 100 west of Pond and then turn, north onto Pond. And being a resident in that area, it feels like they're cutting through. It just doesn't seem like there's a good reason for them to take that turn when I watch them just pull out in front of me, basically, to get onto 100. Anyway, so I'm very willing to make the motion that we modify it to remove the left turn.
Okay, so we can get that motion then on the floor to do that. Then we'll certainly continue discussion. I know Councilmember Rambo, you wish to speak. I do need a second on that motion, Councilmember Marshall. So we do have that motion right now on the floor. Is that related to the elimination of the left turn?
Yeah, I had an observation as someone who has used that road. I agree with both Mr. Marshall and Mr. Jaxie. Pond Road is a thoroughfare, and it used to be in 60s and so forth. It was either that or Etherton Road. You didn't even have 109. And I lived west of that intersection. And if I'm coming east, and if I want to go to Chesterfield Valley, for example, I take Pond when I got the time because it's a prettier road and it's nice and so forth. And I can just turn right in, travel it perfectly safe at the posted speed. But if I'm in a hurry, I go up to 109 because it flows more quickly. And so I'm in favor of eliminating the J turns because it does add safety. It pleases the folks who live on the road, and it keeps me from going Pond Road unless I want to go, a quarter mile out of my way, which takes maybe 30 to 60 seconds. So I don't see the downside of it, and I see a real upside to doing it that way. So I just wanted to state my support for that approach.
Okay, and that's regarding that left turn.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other person that wishes to speak? We do have that motion on the floor. Councilmember Gross.
Yeah, I guess with eliminating the left turns, which, I would agree with, Rick, do you feel that, does it jeopardize the timing, the project in any way?
Councilmember Roast, thank you for that question. We are working diligently towards a completion date that's upcoming. I think this is feasible. And I hope that to be the case. The elimination of that turn would be much easier than making a large addition in the project scope. So there may be the need to revise the traffic study that was completed previously to address this, and MoDOT may want that to be submitted to them. But I'm optimistic that we could make this level of change at this time and still meet our deadline, but we have to meet the deadline to preserve the funding.
I guess, not that I'm suggesting this, but in situations like this, if you were to submit a plan and then it's approved and you're moving along and then you have a modification, is that common or uncommon?
Depends on the project, quite frankly. We make changes of varying degrees of magnitude on every project, I think. But given that this is a new improvement, people haven't seen it. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect changes to be made, quite frankly. I wish we had more time. But the deadline that we've been given from MoDOT is quickly arising, so it has certainly forced us to move quickly to get things wrapped up.
All right, thank you.
I don't see any other hands up at this time, so we still do have that motion on the floor. And seeing none, Councilmember McCutcheon, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. So can somebody please explain the motion? Are we changing the plan that was submitted by the department?
Sure. Yeah, I'll have the city clerk read the motion that's on the floor, but this is a motion that is specific regarding the elimination of the left turn. I believe it's the eastbound left turn. So go ahead, city clerk, please read that.
Motion is to modify the Route 100 J turn preliminary plans to remove the left turn.
Eastbound left turn.
Okay, so eastbound, I just want to make sure we don't have any objection that's clearly.
We're not doing both ways then?
I don't think they're going west.
So let's get that clarity on the floor. The maker of the motion, did you intend eastbound only? Okay.
I think the only concern was if there is still a lane there, that people might still try to come in the wrong side.
So Director Brown, would that be the case then if there is still a space there to allow a westbound left turn? Could potentially people use it, or would there be the elimination of a turning lane altogether there?
I feel that it could be designed appropriately. Essentially, the crossover would be modified with channelizing islands, raised islands, such that it would be clear that a motorist couldn't make the movement, but could make the westbound turn.
So the maker of the motion, you intended just the eastbound one. Is the second in agreement with that, or did you intend for it to be both left turns?
I was probably confused because I thought during the discussion that we'd cut them both out.
Okay.
That way you didn't have the confusion of an open space for people to think, oh, well, maybe I could swing through there. But if the director feels that that's the way and it works with the state, I just think it would improve it. So I'm good with that. I'm good with it. I'll second.
So we'll just keep it to the eastbound left turn then. And then the only turn possible would be someone exiting Pond heading east, I believe it is. Is that correct?
So.
Yeah, person heading south on Pond could still make a left turn.
West on 100 south.
Oh, okay, correction. Okay, so a person heading west on 100 could still make a left turn going across to go south on Pond then. Okay, so that's what we have then. The way it is right now. So the maker and the second are in agreement. So we're gonna proceed with that one there and take a voice vote on that motion. Does anybody need any clarification, or Councilmember McCutcheon, are you clear now?
No, I'm not clear. So is a J turn being eliminated for that area?
No, that's still there. It's just a motion that eliminates the westbound left turn
Okay, thank you.
on 100.
Okay, thank you.
Eastbound. Okay, we need a map on the screen there. If you got it there? Is that what it is? So Travis, if you want to put the mouse over the turn that is the westbound person, that would be right here would be making a left. No, is that east?
That's the westbound. So the opposite side would be the side that would be eliminated. So you couldn't make a left headed eastbound to go northbound on Pond Road. You
So
could
is that
still
the
make
one-
it going westbound to southbound.
So Travis, you're highlighting that. So Councilman McCutcheon, you see he's highlighting that would be eliminated.
So you would only be able to turn left on Pond? On 100, I'm sorry.
You would not be able to make an eastbound left turn onto Pond from 100 directly. You would have to use the J turn.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. So if we're all clear, then we have that motion on the floor. I'll take a voice vote at this time. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone that opposes or abstains? All right, that motion passes. So at this point, then, that's all that you need, Director Brown?
We will proceed with that motion in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving along, we've got miscellaneous. We have several receive and file items here. So if there's no action by the council, then these will just be filed. And so Director Brunich.
Mr. Mayor, with your permission, of the 5 items before you tonight, one is of a particular importance. And it is the first one, I believe, relating to Deer Point Estates. The Planning and Zoning Commission amended the conditional use permit to allow the commercial boarding stable that is now situated on an approximately 29-acre tract of land to be placed on an approximately 18.5-acre tract of land, with the remainder, the 10+ acres, retained as common ground for the Deer Point Estates Homeowners Association. The intent is to sell the commercial boarding stable to someone else other than the homeowners association. As with any conditional use permit, the Planning and Zoning Commission has administrative authority and granted the change. However, under the same code, the City Council has 15 days to exercise its power of review if it feels that additional information needs to be developed or to reconsider their action. So tonight, the matter is being presented to the City Council to determine if the power of review should be exercised on this particular item. And if not, in 15 days, the change would become effective. If there are any questions, the department would be glad to try to answer them at this time.
Questions to Councilmember Marshall.
So, Mr. Vonage, if I understand this correctly, they're just separating the big lot, but the homeowners association is going to own the little lot. Now, are they going to sell that later on, or are they going to own the lot and have somebody build a house on the property that they're going to own?
The little lot is the 10.5-acre site. Primarily, that lot is a lake. And in the plat that was presented to the City Council, that is shown as common ground and will remain as common ground for the future. The intent, I understand, and I have not talked to the buyer, but this is through the broker handling the sale. The intent is, as part of the commercial boarding facility, the new owner may want to build a single-family dwelling and live on the site with the boarding stable. Our zoning ordinance allows a conditional use and a permitted use to coexist on the property. The quirk is the more restrictive requirement relative to the minimum lot area applies, So this particular single-family dwelling will have to be on an 18.5 acre site.
I just thought that part was confusing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
Sure, Councilmember Maybe.
I will disclose in public, I'm ignorant of this case, but curious. How many single-family residences are on this 29-acre property so far?
There are none at this time. It was originally the gentleman that developed the subdivision Deer Point he was named Cliff Ruffgar. He was an avid equestrian enthusiast. And his thought is I'll create a large lot, single family subdivision. 30 acres will be common ground and we'll have a boarding stable, a private boarding stable, because everybody that would buy these lots would have horses. And then they could use the stable as part of their annual assessment. The way it worked out is the lots didn't sell as quickly as he hoped. Many of the buyers that ultimately did follow did not have horses. So about 20 years ago, we caught up with the homeowners association and they were basically a commercial boarding operation without a permit. And so they got the conditional use permit. And now we're in this second stage, our second step, where they'd like to basically relinquish some of the property and the cost that goes with it and have common ground that for the most part is a lake, and let someone else run the commercial boarding stable and own the responsibility.
Questions, and I'll cease and desist. What's the current zoning class of the 29 acres that's not yet subdivided?
It's a mix, FP, NU, floodplain non-urban, and then NU non-urban.
Good. What's the legal ground in the first place if it's primarily NU?
Well, common ground usually from most people's perspective is protected and can't be developed. Obviously, with Mr. Ruffgar and his plan for this subdivision, he developed it almost immediately with the boarding stable. From the perspective of the department, before common ground can be converted, all owners of lots or under the indentures, the trustees must agree to it. And I know they've gone through a lengthy discussion in the subdivision because, as I was told a few years ago, only one person has a horse that's boarded there of all the owners of lots. And so it's just, they pay a great deal in terms of the annual assessment to maintain the property, but nobody is necessarily benefiting from the stable.
Thanks for everyone's patience.
Thank you. So with no exercise of power review in 15 days, this will become effective. And the others, as Mr. Mayor mentioned, are just for your information tonight. And if there are any questions, Mayor, Mr. Gross, or I are glad to answer them as representatives from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Well, that reaches the adjournment section of the agenda for our work session here. So could I get a motion to adjourn the work session made by Councilmember Farmer? Is there a second? Made by Councilmember Albers. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Okay, the work session is adjourned. We're going to take a break for about 5 minutes. I'll just ask everyone to be back at 7:05 so we can start 6:35. 6:35 to start the regular council meeting. All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us, both those that are here in the room and those that are joining us online to our city council meeting for Monday, August 12th at 6:37. So we'll get started with the roll call.
Mayor Garitano,
Present.
Councilmember Bros,
Here.
Councilmember Edens, Councilmember Ottenberg,
Here.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Here.
Councilmember Marshall,
Present.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Here.
Councilmember Hopper, Councilmember Galani, Councilmember Preston,
Here.
Councilmember Mabry,
Here.
Councilmember Nyan,
Here.
Councilmember Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Here.
Councilmember Rambo, Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers.
Okay, thank you. All right, if you're able to join me, if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
And to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, thank you. The approval of the minutes will take place in the consent agenda, so we'll move on to public participation. So maybe just a couple remarks here, and again, thank you for joining us, and anyone that wishes to speak, we welcome your thoughts and comments. If you do wish to speak, please complete a speaker card and provide it to our city clerk, who is seated at the left of the podium. If you are online and wish to speak, please make sure you use the raise hand feature and we will call on you. So when your name is called, you can please approach the podium, state your name and ward number. If you do not know your ward, you can also state your address. To ensure all those who wish to speak, they have the opportunity to do so, we do have a 5-minute time limitation, and I'll let you know when that time limit is reached. If you have any questions for us, mention those during your remarks. Identify any official that you would like to respond. That official will make note of it. And at the conclusion of the public participation, any official who chooses to respond will have 3 minutes to do so. The official may choose to respond after the meeting tonight. Please be respectful to others in making your remarks. Interrupting others and using profane and abusive language are prohibited. And thank you again in advance for following these guidelines. So can we have the first speaker?
Niles Stevens,
Hi, Niall Stevens, Ward 8. As a Ward 8 resident and traveler of Old State, I just want to say thank you for the traffic restrictions to help make Old State safer. So thank you for that. As a candidate for the August 6th primary, I would have to say that I was a little disappointed in how Wildwood enforced their sign ordinances here for the candidates. At Daniel Boone Library, they were an absentee polling place. They allowed the candidates to put their yard signs out to advertise for themselves. In Wildwood, you guys ripped the yard signs out and did not allow us to, and I spoke to a lot of other candidates as well. And just wanted to let you know that I think that you should revisit that for the next election. If you're going to be an absentee polling place and voters are coming in to make decisions on who they're going to vote for, you should allow the candidates their, free speech and put their yard signs out in front of City Hall. So thank you for your time. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Tim Comer,
Tim Comer, 2460 Atherton Road. Here to oppose the TV development. I recently sent every one of you an email through Megan, and this time I enclosed pictures because no matter what I say and what I talk about erosion, it's a big deal. And once you approve a development like this, there's no going back. And is the city going to guarantee me no erosion? And if even if they do, think of the destruction and that you will have to do to repair the erosion problems in my yard. And as you see in the pictures, these are typical rains. I mean, today it rains like that. I have it It's severe. I've lost 6 inches to the middle of my yard. And in the last picture of the email, that is a 60-year-old tree that was super healthy. It's in the very middle of my backyard. I even have a French drain system there, and it can't stop the water. It flows like a creek. It's inches deep. It's feet wide. You can look at the pictures. It's 5 feet wide, and it's 5 feet wide right on the border of this property. So once you disrupt these and rip out these 60, 70-year-old oak trees and take down that canopy that absorbs and pushes out some of that rain, it's all coming to me. And the more I look at the property, some of these trees are within 2 feet of my property line. And I have big mature trees equally as close to the property line. So when they start ripping these things out of the ground, it's going to probably also affect my trees because they're super old and they're still in great shape. But, you know, who's going to guarantee the health of my trees? Who's going to guarantee that I have no erosion? And to dig deeper into it, I've never opposed anybody building. It's just the amount that you want to build. And it's just too close to my property line. I mean, when I look out in my backyard, all I'm going to see is sides of homes. It's just, you ruin my whole property. You just ruin the whole setting of my property. It's more of a park-like setting now. And once you do this, you know, I'm surrounded by homes and I never get that view back. And because you allow them to build so tall in the back. And it's just, I never thought I'd have to be up here fighting to protect my property. And I'm counting on you to do the right thing and protect my property and vote against it or make them build this 3-foot berm that helps with erosion. And on top of that berm, I'll be asking for at least a 6-foot fence. You know, tall fences sometimes make great neighbors. And regardless of, most of you probably don't have land like I do, so you're just not used to it. But I have a lot of privacy in my backyard. I have 20 deer standing back there today. And when you build this many homes, let's just say half of them have animals. Okay, now everybody doesn't adhere to the leash law in Wildwood. I'm going to just tell you. And these pets will come over on my side in the yard there, and even neighbors will just think that it's common ground and they'll just wander their way. So I'm asking for the fence for 2 different reasons, and actually for even more than 2 different reasons, because I'm going to get all these lights from cars, because all the streets come down and point straight to the backyard. And so I'll have lights everywhere. It'll be like a ballpark. And another issue I have is at the last meeting, everybody was so concerned about the development on the other side of 109. And it's less acreage, or it's actually more
30
than
seconds.
And you guys fought against that, but you don't fight against this one. And it's way more dense. And you've had so much more opposition against this development. So, you know, I asked and begged you to do the right thing and protect the value of my property and protect me. I'm a 20-year plus resident of Wildwood, and I just think you owe it to me. And you owe it to the city, and you owe it to all the people that have come up here for the last 3 years.
5 minutes.
So that's all I have.
Hey, thank you. Do we have any other speakers? All right, so that will conclude our public participation section of the meeting here. Now I'll move into mayor's announcements. I do have just one announcement. I want to share just the sad news of the passing of Larry Rogers on August 4th. Larry was a deeply committed member of our city, and he played a significant role in the incorporation. Larry also was a Ward 3 council member from his appointment in November 1996 through September 1998. But his dedication was most evident in his diligent work during the incorporation of our city. So I'll ask if we can just have a brief moment of silence to remember Larry and keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. Okay, thank you. All right, we will proceed now. We do have let's see if we have any public hearings. We do have one public hearing for tonight. So Director Vunich.
With your permission, Mr. Mayor, the city clerk could read the request into the record, and then I'll get started and have a brief presentation for the council.
Historic Preservation Commission's recommendation report with recommendation to City Council on HR 2-24 G. Stephen Scott 3900 Tamara Trail, Wildwood, Missouri 63069. A request to place a single-family dwelling which is located at 3900 Tamara Trail, locator number 26X510023, known as the Hyman House, circa 1859, per the Wildwood Historic Building Inventory, and 1905 per the St. Louis County Department of Revenue Assessor's Office on the city's historic register. This tract of land is zoned NU Non-Urban Residence District. The owner submitted an application to place this asset onto the city's historic register with the intent to retain its use as a residential dwelling. No incentives have been requested. Public hearing was held for this request on May 23rd, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the Historic Preservation Commission is presenting to you tonight its letter of recommendation regarding the matter that was just read into the record by our city clerk, Ms. Eldridge. Mr. Scott, the owner of property, is in attendance as well tonight, and I'm sure will participate during public comment. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimously support of placing this farmer log cabin that now is more of a today residence on the city's register. Besides Mr. Scott, the previous owners have retained the log cabin as part of the overall building. It is now hidden, so to speak, by the improvements made to make it accommodating for the 21st century. But inside the exterior walls lies a log cabin and a dog trot type log cabin. Mr. Scott is seeking no incentives, and the Historic Preservation Commission compared the property and the building to the 13 criteria established by the National Park Service for consideration of historic significance. 6 of those were met. As was referenced in the report that was prepared by the Historic Preservation Commission, this particular situation represents how time changes perspectives, and as different owners reside on the property and in the dwelling, how it changed to accommodate their needs. It's almost like a timeline of where this particular community out in the area of Route 100 now and Hinken Road kind of adapted as time passed. And so it's a real good snapshot in the past, as well as now reflecting what we do today in the present. So from that perspective, the commission was fully supportive of this request. And again, their action was unanimous. After public comment, the department will be available for any questions regarding this particular matter. I would note that council members Nyan and Rambo are liaisons to the Historic Preservation Commission. And if there are questions that you have for them, certainly they'll be prepared to answer. And with that, I'll conclude the department's presentation. And once public comment is complete, again, the department will be available, but it will also seek a motion to prepare the legislation to place this particular asset on the register. Thank you.
Okay, so we do need a motion to officially open the public hearing. Can I get a motion for that, Councilmember Farmer? There's a second on the motion, Councilmember Marshall. All those in favor of the motion to open the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose or abstain? All right, the public hearing is open. Do we have any speakers regarding the public hearing?
Yes, one speaker card, G. Stephen Scott.
Thank you. If you can please approach the podium and just state your name.
Yes, I'm
And-
Steve Scott, Ward 6. I'm the one who started all of this. And I think Mr. Vonich has just given a very good explanation, a brief explanation of the situation, and the report that they prepared and submitted to the council, I think is very thorough. So I really don't have anything to add. I would just welcome any comments or respond to any comments or questions anybody may have. So I look forward to your approval of this. I'd like to get that plaque on by my front door. And I don't know how long I won't own the house forever. I'd like to preserve it in the future. And hopefully this would help keep that house around, because it takes something to take care of it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers for the public hearing? So a motion to close the public hearing, is that appropriate at this time? Or Director Vunich, did you wish to say something else, or?
No, once the hearing's closed, again, the department will respectfully request a motion, second, and action to prepare legislation so we can address Mr. Scott's request to the city.
Okay,
you.
so can I get a motion to close the public hearing made by Member Farmer and a second, Councilmember Jaxi? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose or abstain? The public hearing is now closed. So at this point, we'll see, Councilmember Rambo.
Yeah, I would like to enthusiastically make the motion to approve this for listing on our historic register, historic building inventory.
Okay, and just to put clarity, to get the appropriate motion on the floor, you're requesting to prepare legislation to.
Right.
Okay, do that. All right, so Councilmember Jaxi, that's a second, I'm assuming there. So do we have any questions or comments, discussion on the motion? So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose or abstain? Okay, that motion passes. So that will move forward, and we'll gladly come and present that plaque if you'd like. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to unfinished business under legislation. And again, for the sake of efficiency, we're going to see if we can read several bills en masse. I'll ask if there's anyone that opposes any items. I will request that we read Bill 2903 separately, because there is a proposed amendment, and be cleaner if we just handle that one separately. But other than that, if there's no objection, we propose that we read Bill 2896, 2897, 2899, 2901, and 2904. Does anyone oppose or would like to read any of the bills that I mentioned separately? All right, seeing none, then we'll go ahead. So we'll start with let's see, we'll have Bill 2896 before the council for second reading concerning Ward 5, 2897 before the council for second reading concerning Ward 8, 2899 before the council for second reading concerning Ward 6 and 8, 2901 before the council for second reading concerning Ward 6, and 2904 before the council for second reading concerning Ward 8. So is there a motion for the second reading of these bills? Made by Councilmember Rambo. Is there a second? Councilmember Farmer. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, oh, we have to do a roll call, I believe, on that, right? No? Okay. So any oppose or any abstain? All right, Ms. Eldridge, please read bills.
Bill number 2896, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a city consultant agreement with HR Green Incorporated to complete the design of a new shared use path connecting the villages at Brightleaf subdivision with Green Pines Park, second reading. Bill number 2897, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending chapter 390 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood, Missouri by enacting new parking regulations on Camberry Lane, Lark Song Drive, and Killara Lane, and authorizing and directing the city traffic engineer to erect appropriate signage reflecting such parking regulations, second reading. Bill number 2899, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending chapter 390 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood, Missouri by establishing a regulation of the kinds and classes of traffic permitted on Old State Road between State Route 109 and Old Fairway Drive, second reading. Bill number 2901, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, approving a lot split plat for the division of a 39-acre tract of land into two lots located on the west side of Hinkin Road, east of its intersection with State Route 100, with such being in the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 20, Township 44 North, Range 3 East of the 5th Principal Meridian, and to be hereafter known as Hinkin Hills Estates, second reading. Bill number 2904, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing a change in zoning of a 6-acre tract of land from the NU non-urban residence district to the PS Park and Scenic District, which is to be the city of Wildwood's Village Green, second reading.
All right, Director Brown, do you have anything to add to the information that's already been provided to the bills?
Thank you, Mayor Giordano. No, I have nothing further to add, but I'm available for any questions from the city council.
Does anyone have any questions related to items that Director Brown can speak to? Okay, doesn't look like we have any questions for you. Director Vunich, do you have anything to add to the information that's already been provided to the council?
Mr. Mayor, I do not, but would be glad to answer any questions or comments at this time.
Okay. Anyone have anything for Director Vunich?
Thank you.
All right, seeing none then, the bills are on the floor for discussion. Is there any discussion related to the bills? Seeing none, then Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage.
Councilmember Brost,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Preston,
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry,
Yes.
Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers.
Bills are passed. So we do have one more bill, Bill 2903. And it does have a proposed amendment. So that will need to be read a second time and a motion made to amend the bill. So we'll have Bill 2903 before the council for second reading and concerning all wards. So is there a motion for the second reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Dodwell and by Councilmember Marshall. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2903.
Bill number 2903, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, deleting section 415.220 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood, Missouri in its entirety, and enacting in lieu thereof a new section 415.220 and amending section 415.380 subsection I 2B of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, and providing for membership requirements and review processes of the Architectural Review Board, second reading.
Director Vunich, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the city council, the change to the bill relates to a certain condition associated with it. That condition is item 1B1, and it has to do with the regular members associated with the Architectural Review Board. In the department's haste to prepare the legislation, the original bill, it kind of had the wording not exactly right relative to the mayor and city council's process to engage architects that may not be residents of the city. Thanks to Mr. Young, our city attorney, for catching it and correcting it so it's consistent with the Planning and Zoning Commission's action. That is the change that is before you tonight, and Mr. Young and I are available to answer any questions regarding the matter. Mr. Mayor, I will add one more item. At Thursday's Architectural Review Board meeting, the department was present, and I had the opportunity to explain the bill to the current members of the Architectural Review Board and advise them that certainly it was not a reflection on them. It was just, again, the technical nature of the subject matter and the need to have architects talking to architects was something that, for the most part, the city council concurred with, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission. And equally important, just the struggle to fill those positions as we do our day-to-day work. So thank you.
All right, so do we have any questions, or if someone willing to make an amendment to the bill that's been presented, you can do so as well. Councilmember Marshall.
Just a couple clarification questions. I know how hard this is, but what I'd like to get a better understanding for, Mr. Vunich, is in the amendment part where it says the mayor has the right or may need to appoint up to 2. As you read through the whole ordinance, it talks about a rotating basis, a 3-year, a 2-year, a 1 year. Will any of these consultants be assigned for anything more than maybe a 6-month window, in case we're lucky enough to find architects, that we don't have non-residents on a 3-year assignment where we may have to pay them to do that? I think it'd be very hard to get architects to volunteer if they know. And I think you would remember this. There was a guy who lived in Eureka who did it for Clarkson Valley, and he came to our city several times, but he was paid as a consultant to do that. So my fear is that we put somebody on there for 2 or 3 year term when we could find somebody. So is it something that the mayor has the right within if we have somebody pop up, we exercise our option to get out of the contract with the individuals? Or how do you foresee that working?
Well, two potential responses to that. One is we can build it into the contract, because anyone who's going to be paid has to have a contract, and you can put those contracts for a lesser time that they get paid than their term in office. So you can have it be reviewed annually, reviewed every 6 months. So that is certainly an option, and is consistent with the language that's presented.
I think that's a good way to approach. I just don't think you want to appoint people thinking they're going to be in there for a long time. And I do know it takes longer than one meeting to learn what they need to do, but they are architects, and we're only expecting them to look at the guidelines. It's not their professional opinion or their ego that you deal with.
Yes, sir, certainly. Mr. Lee? So the intent, at least how I would like to promote this particular approach, is that certainly we prefer residents on the Architectural Review Board. And the intent would be to find 3 architects that are residents of Wildwood. Mr. Ritter, one of our current members, is in attendance tonight. He is an architect as well, and certainly would qualify. Mr. Scott, who just presented his residence for the Historic Register, is an architect and practices still. And so I'd like to think that we can find 3. That was the intent of reducing the overall number. But certainly, I think as we move forward, if this bill is approved tonight, we'll talk to those other communities like Town and Country and Kirkwood, and certainly investigate how they do it so we do it right as well. Thank you.
I'll make the motion to support the amended bill 2309.
Okay, so that motion would be to make that amendment to the motion that is on the floor. The relation. Okay. So that's motion made, second by Councilmember Farmer. Any other question or discussion then? So on this motion, do voice vote on this, right? Or okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Okay, so then at this point, then we have the bill 2903 as amended on the floor for discussion. Any other discussion on this bill? All right, so Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Preston,
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry,
Yes.
Councilmember Nian.
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers, Councilmember Brost.
Yes.
Did Councilmember McCutcheon respond? Okay.
Yes, I said
Right.
yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that concludes the old business. We'll move into new business. So again, similar to what we did before, we have several bills, none that have any kind of significant major budgetary impact. But if there's no objection, then I will ask if there's a motion that we can get the bills 2905, 2906, 07, 2907, 2908, and 2909 all read. Do we have any objection if anybody wants to pull out any of the bills and read them separately? So then motion for the first reading of the bills made by Councilmember Mabry, is that correct? Okay, and do we have a second by Councilmember Nian? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose or abstain? All right, Ms. Eldridge, please read bills 2905, 2906, 2907, 2908, and 2909.
Bill number 2905, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, accepting certain streets within Main Street Crossing subdivision for public use and maintenance, first reading. Bill number 2906, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending section 2 of ordinance number 2788 of the city of Wildwood, Missouri to increase the total authorization amount of the city contractor agreement with Horner and Schifrin Incorporated to complete a cultural resource review as part of the design of the Route 100 Turn Lane Improvement Project, first reading. Bill number 2907, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an amended contract with Kelp Contracting Incorporated for the demolition of a single-family dwelling, related improvement, site restoration, and retention of a groundwater well on the Partner Park site, first reading. Bill number 2908, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, adopting the building, residential, existing building, mechanical, and plumbing codes of the county of St. Louis, Missouri, which shall be the building, residential, existing building, mechanical, and plumbing codes of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, first reading. Bill number 2909, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, approving a boundary adjustment plat for two legal lots of record totaling 15.33 acres located at the intersection of Christmas Valley Drive and Christmas Valley Road in section 24, Township 45 North, Range 3 East, and to be hereafter known as boundary adjustment plat of 1215 Christmas Valley Road and 1289 Christmas Valley Drive, first reading.
All right, Director Vunich, I'll call you up first. Do you have anything that you wish to add to the information that's provided? And I'll also ask you this question, if there's any that you see would benefit from a second reading.
Mr. Mayor, I'm available for any questions on the bills that originated from the Department of Planning. The Department of Planning, though, would respectfully request the consideration on the part of City Council for a second reading of Bill 2908, which relates to the adoption of the 2015 versions of the list of codes that were read into tonight's record. We're a little behind on that, and we'd like to catch up and keep us in good standing with all parties.
Okay, and Director Vunich, before we open up to see if there's any questions, I know the single family dwelling has some damage that it's not used at this time. Does that benefit you of having a second reading or not?
It would very much, Mr. Mayor, but I didn't want to go to the well too many times, so to speak. But as you know, previously the department had presented to the City Council a resolution with authorized electric to preserve the potable groundwater well, and that amount was $25,000. In keeping with Tom Kelp and his just dogged relentlessness to save money, he started talking with other potential providers And we ended up finding a solution that's $14,000 less. So certainly they would like to get started this week. And so, yes, a second reading would be much appreciated by all parties.
All right, we'll certainly keep that into consideration. I'll ask. And then there's the boundary adjustment. I know sometimes we get requests for that. Do you?
I've not talked to the two property owners, but in this particular instance, they're trying to address a situation relative to access and trying to keep a portion of the private roadway easement on a portion of the lot and basically guarantee that in the future, if there are any issues, each one has a portion of the easement on their own lot and don't have to worry. So, it's just certainly it could be a second reading, but the situation isn't dire.
Okay, we'll open up and see. I think everyone's heard your thoughts on these. So any questions, comments, or discussion on these items here? Councilmember Mabry.
Well, to respond to your question, Councilmember Mabry, no. Boundary adjustments as prescribed by the subdivision and development regulations don't create new lots. We're just kind of tinkering with what's there. And thanks to Mr. Newberry, you can see that now, for all intents and purposes, the larger lot, the existing original larger lot, has the intersection and the two fingers of the road as part of it. Under the boundary adjustment, that uppermost finger will now be on a portion of the lot that, for all intents and purposes, serves that same lot. You also kind of get to see the mind at work of the director of planning as he reviews one of these things. So I was running out of time, so I gave Travis this, so my apologies.
So you'd be supportive of second reading then for that one? Okay, so we'll come back. I'll come back and ask that question after we conclude. Now Director Brown coming up to ask or share any information he'd like to add. Same question as well for you if there's any.
Mayor Garetano and council members, I don't have any additional information on Bill 2905 or 2906. However, I would, now that you've mentioned it, I didn't bring it up in advance. However, I wouldn't be opposed at all to a second reading on 2906. And given the magnitude of expense there, I know it might be last minute, but I would respectfully request that.
Any questions or anything for Director Brown? All right. We do have one, Councilmember Preston.
Yeah, just curious on the one item. We had an email exchange before the meeting here today just about what exactly, I guess I have to claim ignorance. I didn't even know what the a cultural resource review.
There's a council member, there's a section of federal law that was enacted in the 60s that pertains to potential disturb cultural resources. And so because we're using federal funds and state funds, MoDOT makes us stick to those rules and apply to and comply with those laws. So this will be this will allow us to hire a specialty consultant that specializes in that work. They will do a survey, a physical check in the field, and a records research to determine if they feel there's any concern whatsoever with regard to cultural resources, which would typically mean archaeological. Sometimes I think historic properties or homes also come into play, but since we are not impacting any new ground with this improvement, and it's all existing right away. Typically, it's always been rubber stamp in the past and not been an issue. It's only recently that MoDOT's really pushed us to do these in more detail.
All right, I don't see any other questions for Director Brown, so the bills are going to be on the agenda for the next meeting, but we do have several bills that I guess we can do a second reading, and if I captured correctly, 2906, 2907, 2908, and 2909. So is there anyone that like to make a motion for a second reading of those bills? Councilmember Farmer?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Okay, so that's a motion and second by Councilmember Preston. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed or abstain? All right, Ms. Eldridge, please read the bills.
Bill number 20.
Oh, we need to do a roll call.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so roll call then. Well, actually, we will go back and redo the motion then, right? That would be appropriate. Okay, so can we get that motion made again?
I'll make the motion.
All right, and that's again for bills 2906, 2907, 2908, and 2909.
Correct.
Seconded still by Councilmember Preston, so we do need a roll call. Thank you for that.
Councilmember Dodwell. Councilmember Marshall.
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper. Oh, sorry, he's not here. Councilmember Preston.
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry.
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan.
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer. Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons. Councilmember Albers. Councilmember Brost.
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg.
Yes.
Okay, the motion then passes. So Ms. Eldridge, please read those bills.
06, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending section 2 of ordinance number 2788 of the city of Wildwood, Missouri to increase the total authorization amount of the city contractor agreement with Horner and Schifrin Incorporated to complete a cultural resource review as part of the design of the Route 100 turn lane improvement project, second reading. Bill number 2907, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an amended contract with Kelp Contracting Incorporated for the demolition of a single-family dwelling, related improvements, site restoration, and retention of a groundwater well on the Partner Park site, second reading. Bill number 2908, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, adopting the building, residential existing building, mechanical and plumbing codes of the county of St. Louis, Missouri, which shall be the building, residential existing building, mechanical and plumbing codes of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, second reading. Bill number 2909, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, approving a boundary adjustment plat for 2 legal lots of record totaling 15.33 acres located at the intersection of Christmas Valley Drive and Christmas Valley Road in section 24, Township 45 North, Rain Street East, and to be hereafter known as boundary adjustment plat of 1215 Christmas Valley Road and 1289 Christmas Valley Drive, second reading.
The bills have been read. Is there any other discussion that we need to have? All right, seeing none, then Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage.
Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Preston,
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry,
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer, Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers, Councilmember Brost,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell.
That passes. So now we'll move on to the consent agenda. That includes also resolutions there. So is there any request from anyone to pull any item from the consent agenda? Otherwise, we'll look for a motion to do approve the consent agenda. Is there anyone that wishes to make a motion to approve the consent agenda? Councilmember Farmer, and then seconded by Councilmember Mabry. So all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstain? Right, the consent agenda is approved. So that brings us to miscellaneous. Does anyone have anything at all for miscellaneous? Councilmember Farm.
Yeah, we talked about in admin and public works this last week that we're gonna do our best to try to move to kind of a limited number of printouts. We get a lot of agendas and memos and things printed out. We also get them all on our emails and things. So we're doing that as a committee. We were just going to suggest maybe the other committees or even the council as a whole take a look at doing that just so we can try to save paper. We print and then recycle an awful lot of things. So like as a tree city, maybe we can try to save some trees and do some digital things. So just a thought.
All right, thank you. I have Councilmember Mabry and Councilmember Rambo. Go ahead, Councilmember Mabry.
Thank you. Now I'm on record. Evil minds think alike. I had appreciated the very immense report that I carry around because I think sometime it will come in handy, but this one. For things of this nature, I would request.
Do you have your microphone on, by the way?
I do, but I had it blocked. This was one that I could have theoretically printed in color on legal with my printer. So I did, but then seeing it had been printed made me glad that others that don't have that capability are going blind unless that was sitting there waiting for them when they got to the committee meeting. So things of this nature, however we want to characterize it, could be printed, but everything else in the form of agendas, documents, PDFs, that sort of thing, it could be left up to the nature of each council member to decide whether they memorized it, put it on their laptop to bring with them. No, I'm finished.
All right.
Relenting the floor.
Well, I do have Councilmember Rambo, and then if there's anyone else that wishes to speak, let me know.
Yeah, I just want to claim partial credit. We're way ahead of Joe's committee on this. And we have Ms. Ripito who shows up at the Planning and Parks meeting with a big QR code and just puts it right there. And Wildwood has given us these iPads that are sometimes barely adequate, but they work well enough for the QR codes. And we can save a whole lot of paper just by the QR code thing. So anyway, it was our idea.
All right, great. Councilmember Dodwell, I think do you want to chime in? Yeah.
Because this is a really good tool to be able to delve, scale on a lot of these things. Then people like me, I'm going, okay, what does this say? So I'm just monitoring my systems as needed.
Do anyone else wish to comment? All right, well, the only thing I will add is that we have a big concert coming up at the end of the week, the back to school concert. So it starts a little earlier, I believe, correct me, 5:30. So there are a lot of activities for the kids, bounce houses, I guess, right? And there's all the usual food options. Thank you to the Lions Club for the help there. And of course, all the folks here from the city that are helping out that evening. So let's hope for good weather. What's the weather forecast, Joe? All right. Well, keep the positive thought there for Joe and the rest of the team that the weather cooperates. So big event and great turnout for back to school. So great to have everyone there. All right. Well, with that, we have can we get a motion to adjourn? Made by Councilmember Kranz. Is there a second on that motion? Councilmember Jaxie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain?